Hello everyone, this is Taliesin McKnight. How you guys doing today? Today I would like to talk about the principle of correspondence as it applies to magic. The principle of correspondence has to do with how different things are associated with each other within the universe. The principle of correspondence is a very ancient idea that you find in many different systems of magic around the world. The principle of correspondence has to do with the microcosm and the macrocosm. For example, if you take aggression, anger, this is a very powerful force within ourselves, within our psyche. Anger, aggression is a very powerful psychological force. And yet we are told in the ideas that you find in various forms of magic that aggression and anger, it's a psychological force of the psyche, but it's also found out there in the universe. So this force is found in the cosmos, astrologically speaking, in the planet of Mars. So Mars can be seen as the embodiment of aggression. And so within us we have aggression and anger, and then we have the planetary power of Mars. And yet still, above Mars is still even a higher realm where this force is found in the divine realm. So from the divine realm into the planet Mars, down to man within us, we have this power within us, this force. And so we can see by the principle of correspondence that this is found at different levels of creation. In the same way, our sex drive, our passion, our love, and our sex drive is a very powerful force of the psyche. And yet, astrologically speaking, this is found within the planetary sphere of Venus. And yet, Venus is yet a lower manifestation of something found at a higher level still. And so, the power of love that comes from above, the divine realm, in the divine outpouring, you find it in the planet of Venus. At a lower level, within man, we have it in our psyche. In the vegetable kingdom, you find the rose. Roses are associated with Venus. In the mineral kingdom, you find rose quartz is a stone of Venus associated with love, and you find that copper is the metal of Venus. And so therefore, according to the principle of correspondence, rose quartz, copper as a metal, roses as a plant, the force within our psyche of desire, all of these things associate with Venus. And so that is the idea of correspondence. That roses correspond to Venus and copper corresponds to Venus, things like that. So that is the principle of correspondence. Now, the idea is to harness material objects in order to cause change to occur. So in magic or in spell work, when you are working within a certain domain, let's say that you're wanting to cast a love spell. Let's say that you're wanting to bring love into your life and you're wanting to do a love spell. What you would do is, since Venus rules love, you would do this on Friday, the day of Venus. You would get a red candle. Red is the color of Venus, the color of love. Venus is actually green, but red's a symbol of love. So you'd get a red candle on Friday. Rose, remember, is the plant associated with love. So you take rose petals and grind them up, soak them in oil. That's your rose oil. Then take more dried rose petals and grind them up into a powder. And that could be your incense, that could be your powder. And so basically, on Friday, you take the red candle, you carve symbols of love, of your desire in the candle, and then you will rub it in the oil and then rub it in the rose petals and light it. And so that is a very simple form of candle magic for a love spell. You may have incenses associated with love. You may put a rose quartz on the table. So that basically you may put a lover's tarot card. The more symbols, the more things that associate with Venus and love, the better. Now, I'm not saying to clutter your altar. That's going to an extreme. If you were to create an amulet, a metal amulet for love and Venus, do it on copper. And so basically, the principle of correspondence says that certain herbs, certain stones and metals are associated with a planet, is associated with our psyche. Going back to our love spell that we were talking about, what about the forces within your psyche? When you cast this spell, you need to bring this emotion to the surface. If you were working with Mars, if you were doing a martial working, you need to bring your own aggression forward. So whatever planetary force that you are working with, not only do you need metals and herbs and stones associated with it, but you also need to invoke this force within your psyche. And that perhaps is the most important aspect, sirs and madams. So yeah, now where does this idea come from? We have what we call the divine outpouring. And you find this in Plato's dialogues, where it talks about the ideal forms. The idea is that in the divine outpouring, you have things. It is a form of emanationism that from the source is a gradual contracting of energies until it slows down into the material world. Thus, at the highest level is divine love, which manifests as the planet Venus, which manifests as that part of our psyche. It manifests in the vegetable kingdom as the rose, etc., etc. So in the divine outpouring, this exists within all different levels. Another way to look at it is the symbolic approach. That whether or not rose really has a power of Venus in it, these are symbols. Symbolism is the language of the subconscious. So that whether or not these really have that essence in it, it is the symbolism. By using the symbolism, roses are deeply associated with love. This is a very ancient symbol of love. We see this because in ancient Greece, roses were sacred to Aphrodite. So this is a very deep symbol of love, hearts, things like that. These symbols speak to our subconscious so that by using symbolism, we could communicate our desires to the divine, that we could harness the powers of the subconscious through the use of symbol. We see that religious myths, our mythologies, our rites of worship found within different religions, our liturgy of the Catholic Mass, our religious rituals use symbolism. Thus, you see how important symbolism is. That in ritual of any world religion, basically, it doesn't matter if you're a Jew, a Christian, a Muslim, ritual or ceremony uses symbol to communicate with the divine. Thus, you could see that symbols are important for communicating with our innermost selves. Another thing to consider is focus. That when you are doing a love spell, for example, to see colors, symbols, smells, all of this associated with your desire, it is a way to focus your will. And there is a saying that goes around within occult circles that if you could harness your thought, if you could suspend thought, if you could hold your focus upon one single thing, one pointedness, then you have within you the power of creation. And this is partially why the ability to control thought and the practices of meditation are so important in magic. So it is a way, the use of symbol, the use of correspondences is also a way to focus the mind, to focus the will of the magician. So you are focusing your energy upon your desire. Now, stepping aside from all of this, going into the realm of spirit summoning, different traditions summon spirits. Within Western ceremonial magic, sigils. A sigil is the signature associated with a certain spirit. A magical link. What is a magical link? Essentially, a magical link is something that connects you to the target. For example, if you're going to do a spell on someone, if you have their hair, a piece of jewelry that you own, or even a photograph of that person, then you could send them healing, you can do whatever. You have some kind of a link to that individual. So that is a magical link. In the case of a spirit, the sigil, the symbol of that spirit, acts as the magical link. And there are many different traditions that if you know the name of a spirit, then you can control the spirit. In fact, it's actually kind of comical. Back in medieval days in Judaism, when a child was first born, it was seen as a very perilous time. You know, they don't want evil spirits getting it. So they would come up with a fake name for the child. You know, I don't even know how to articulate what I was trying to say on that. Anyways, name has a power over it, according to some traditions. So anyways, and of course in voodoo you have the veve, which is a symbol for different loa or voodoo spirits. So anyways, symbolism, the principle of correspondence, certain herbs, stones, metals, planets are all associated with an idea. So that within man's psyche, you have the power of prosperity. Within certain herbs and stones, you know, you have this power of prosperity. And that in a nutshell is the principle of correspondence. Try to use the proper day, the proper herbs and colors and symbols and smells, so that you could at least obtain one pointedness in your consciousness. So anyways, that is a basic overview of the law of correspondence. So anyways, this is Taliesin McKnight once again, and thank you for joining me.